This is the second of a two-part series with world-renowned developmental theorist and child psychologist, Dr. Gordon Neufeld. If you've not listened to part one, we encourage you to go to our previous episode as it sets the stage for today's conversation.
For over 4 decades, Dr. Neufeld's dedication to helping parents make sense of their preschoolers has created the groundwork for much of what we now know about the emerging growth and understanding of childhood. His work describes how our early years set the stage for our ongoing maturation and health.
So we ended episode 1 with Dr. Neufeld describing our drive for attachment as more immediate than the drive for survival.
Which was surprising to me.
Yeah, me too, actually. He gives a quick example of how this plays out in mammals and then crosses over into how this plays out with people.
And then he went into a story of a mom at a playground in an everyday situation that every mom would relate
It's
to.
a good example, yeah.
Who plays her ace card by making a power play that threatens the child-parent connection. So we're going to replay the last 3 or 4 minutes of part 1, and then we're going to jump right into the rest of the interview.
And at the end of part 2, Dr. Neufeld has this one little section on the emerging brain of a teenager, and it goes by really quickly, but listen for it because it's fascinating.
It is.
Potential isn't something you practice. It's not something you can teach. Even the best preschool in the world cannot foster maturation. The best university in the world can't do it. This is home stuff. It's only in home where these basic developmental needs can be met. This leads to the realization of human potential.
I'm Rachel Cram.
And I'm Roy Salmond, and welcome to Family 360.
Conversations exploring life together. Welcome to part 2 with Dr. Gordon Neufeld. We are going to jump right back in.
The number one enemy facing preschoolers is separation. And the preschooler is extremely vulnerable to this. When they're facing more separation than they can bear, they become highly alarmed, they become highly frustrated in intense pursuit of proximity. And those emotions are huge. And it's being able to find a way of holding on to them when apart that preserves that sense of connection. So that's the fundamental challenge for the parents when they send their child to daycare or preschool. How do I hold on to that child when apart? How do I preserve that connection? How can I work the relationship to do so? And from a preschooler's point of view, how do I help that child hold on to mom and dad? How do we bridge the separation? Because that will be the single most important factor that is there. I can give you an example of just how, when we don't understand this, let's say a mother of a preschooler, they're at the playground. There's other people around, and the mother decides it's time to go and is trying to get the preschooler to cooperate. But there's other people looking on, so she's feeling a little bit concerned about this. She says, come on, Marcy, we need to go. Marcy says, no, I don't want to. I want to stay. Come on, Marcy, I gave you your 5-minute warning. We need to go now. No, I don't want to. I want to stay. And then she has an ace card to play. And any mom will find out that ace card and will say, okay, Marcy, Mommy's going now. Bye-bye. And we'll just disappear behind a tree or something like this and go out of view. And of course, what happens is Marcy faces separation. And it triggers 3 of the most powerful emotions we have in us. One is intensified pursuit. Mommy, wait, I'm coming. Okay? Also triggers intense frustration and intense alarm. Now, what we only see is the trigger pursuit because a child of that age can only feel one emotion at a time, not 2, only one emotion. And so that worked. So if I put a child's face into separation, say I'm going to send you to your room if you're going to do that, and we have many, many ways of doing this, put the child's face into separation, it triggers an emotion which triggers pursuit of proximity, which generally speaking makes the parent feel as if, oh, this worked, right? What the parent doesn't know is that when the child gets home, there's all of this unexpressed frustration. If there's a little sister or a little pet or something's going to get hit, and doesn't realize it's connected. And what the parent doesn't know is that at bedtime, all of a sudden the child can't go to bed in their own bed because the child is alarmed. There's monsters under the bed. And doesn't realize that what happened at that event at the playground, the parent actually was using the most powerful scenario pushing a child's face into separation that triggered absolutely powerful emotions. Now, when we're ignorant of how emotions work, when we're ignorant of facing separation, we slip into these things all the time. And
can you describe how the parent could have dealt with that then when they wanted their child to leave the playground? What could they have said and done instead?
Well, the first thing is to go by the rule not to push a child's face into separation. That's not a good thing. In that situation, you've got to get the child back. So the first thing to do to get a child back is to engage their attachment instincts. So you get down on one knee, you engage in what the child is doing, you look where they looked until you get their eyes. There's, oh, you're really enjoying this, and so on. You say something that made them smile, something that made them nod. You really enjoyed your time here. Now the child is yours. When the attachment instincts are engaged, they want to do your bidding. Now they're back. Now you've got them back. You can't get them back by threatening them. You get them back by being able to engage the attachment instincts. Once you do this, all you have to do is bring in play. Play is the most absolutely engaging of all. Play, that's its middle name, is engages. Who can get to the car first? I'll race you back. All you do is introduce play, and you have got that child. And there's not a child that can resist that. That is where the magic is. It's really so simple. It's so simple. What you don't do is push a child's face into the separation. Yet that is what we tend to do. That's what we do because we're left without our cultural cues in terms of how to handle children in this way. And we're taught to do what works.
Yeah.
The problem is what works is the worst thing for the child. Decapitation works for headaches. It's the worst thing we could possibly do. What works is not the answer.
Yeah.
What preserves the connection with the child is the answer.
Yeah. Well, I think in situations like that, you literally feel at your wit's end. That
You do.
That description
Yes.
is good. And I think what I hear you saying is you need to then elongate your wit and understand it differently.
Like you asked, what should the parent do? I tend to be rather short on those answers, although I indulged you and gave you an
Thank
answer.
you. Appreciate that.
So to give you what does it look like?
Yeah.
But I'd rather be short on those answers
Yeah.
because if you become dependent upon the answers, you're trying to think of what you should do. Whereas if you have the insight about what the child needs, you become creative, you become intuitive, you gain your confidence, you become a child whisperer.
You think about who you should be.
Yeah, you automatically, you find the dance. You're led by your eyes. But if you're trying to remember what to do, you're dumbed down.
Well, I think what I hear you saying is we need to trust more than our instincts. We need to trust
Our eyes.
our eyes.
But we have to have the right eyes,
You have
and
to
they'll
have the right
bring us,
eyes.
because the instinct in this case, the instinct was wrong. The instinct was to do the thing that would get the right behavior in the moment. Our instincts often betray us. It is to face separation. You know, nobody's going to love you. Nobody's going to be your friend if you're going to act like that. That is instinctive. It's the worst thing we could say, because it says to the child that being good is what you need to do to be valued, to be special in the society. So it's the worst thing we could say. So our instincts can betray us.
You're trusting your
When-
eyes. Can you just
when
say a little
we
bit more
see-
about that then?
Well, that's what the whole thing is about. If we can make sense of our child, if we
Yeah.
can see what they need, if we have that insight, it will automatically bring us to the right kind of actions. That dance will come automatically. So my goal is to help parents see their children, is to have insight beyond their behavior to what it is that's really going on. And I think it's exciting when we understand things. It's exciting. But you don't have to ask anymore the question what to do, because that becomes self-evident to you.
So, Gordon, you just made this statement about how we need to see and connect with our child, and you're describing these very playful responses and how we do that. I'm wondering, is that affected by our ability as adults to be able to play ourselves? Do those two things correlate?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, you nailed it. And you use the word playfulness, which is exactly the right word.
Oh, good.
It is playful. Now, if you're playless, If there's no play in you,
Which often as a parent, we fall into that state, right? We become all functional.
But what does that indicate? That we have lost the place of play in our own lives. And that is hugely significant. That's going to parallel with all kinds of other things, emotional exhaustion, with a sense of growing older. If there's any elixir, if there's any answer to aging, it's playfulness.
Why do we lose that?
Because we're in a work-obsessed world. It's all about work. We think that work is about fulfillment. And of course, there is no fulfillment in work. It's about achievement, not fulfillment. When you see a child engaged in play, it's self-fulfilling. It absolutely is there. It's present. When we find our own emotional playgrounds, I had to find my own music. I used to play piano for the sheer enjoyment of it. And then I lost it because of, achievement,
Structure,
accomplishment, and structure. And I had to rediscover it as a playground for my emotions. And everybody has their bent. As a dancer, in movement, as an artist, everybody has their bent. That becomes so important in our lives to find that. But if we lose our own playfulness, it will be difficult to see how important playfulness is. That's why sometimes it's easier for grandparents. It's just like they're finished with work, right?
That's why we should raise children when we're grandparents.
It would make sense from that point of view.
If we weren't so very tired at that point.
It would make a lot of sense. I tell you, you're a much different parent as a grandparent than you are as a parent. I think you have a lot better idea of your partnership with nature. Your job is to provide a sense of togetherness, connection, safety, and so on, and allow nature to do the rest of the unfolding. But when you start off as a parent, you want to do it right. You're neurotic. You visit all your neuroses on your children. You're outcome based. You're all of these kinds of things, and it's really hard to relax about it. It's really hard to say, well, my greatest challenge is to put this child into the hands of nature and allow nature to do their work. And of course, that is to preserve the place of true play.
It's a lot of trust.
It is. And not everybody has that kind of trust or belief. But it's so easy to manage a preschooler when you're playful. It is
But during
so
those preschool
easy.
years, especially if you have 2 or 3 or 4 kids that are all in those preschool years, I'm listening to you as a mom thinking, how do you find that, though? Your own playfulness. How do you prioritize that?
Well, when do your emotions come out to play?
I think with your children. They do, but I'm sensing you say it needs to be more than that.
It's a solitary activity.
And that's a hard thing to find, the solitary.
Yes. Have you developed a culture to preserve this in your life? So it happens on a weekly basis. It happens to a certain degree on a daily basis. Is it when you're painting? Is it when you're drawing? Is it when you're dancing? See, so many of us are at work all the time. And now with the inbox and living in the digital world, there is no break from it. It's never done. And so we don't come to a place of true rest. And many of us are losing our place of rest even in our sleep, is that it's not bringing us to that place of rest. And by the way, emotions don't rest when they're asleep because they're in charge of our dreams. They're still at work. They're also in charge of memory encoding. So we find the emotions don't rest while we're sleeping. They rest in play.
This might be a sad thing to say, but I think that if we can know as a parent that if we engage in play, we'll be a better parent to our children, that might be enough impetus to make us do it.
Well,
because I think sometimes when we're in those early years, we forget about ourselves, and it's hard to do something for ourselves.
And it will certainly be the most significant factor in taking the stress out of your marriage.
Can you talk more about that?
Well, we got attracted to each other through play because play is incredibly attractive when you see playfulness. But it's the first thing that we lose often in marriage is we lose ourselves as playmates and truly being able to play together. In fact, one of the people who discovered this is actually the one responsible for the National Institute of Play in the States. He goes around now giving marriage play shops because, again, in the research, couples who play together have a much greater chance of longevity in their marriage than those who lose their play. So it goes into every area of our life.
Yeah.
It's not just about kids, it's about us. And there's a good argument that bringing play into something should be the first instrument of discipline for a child who has not yet had mixed feelings.
Oh, I wanted to come back to this. In your earlier story about Marcy at the playground, when you described her drive for pursuit, you said something to the effect that a young child can only feel one emotion at a time,
Yes,
which is
yes.
so interesting. It's fascinating. And now you're mentioning mixed feelings. So what do you mean by mixed feelings? And is there an age where that kind of comes
Oh, yes.
into?
Well, there's a part of our brain that doesn't show up until 5 to 7 years of age.
Right.
A part of our brain called the prefrontal cortex, and there's another part of our brain called the corpus callosum, which is the bridge between the hemispheres. That really isn't there. And so in the preschooler, there's parts of the brain that are missing. Well, they're not really missing. They're there, but there's no blood flow in it. So they're inoperative. So for all intents and purposes, they're missing.
Yeah.
And so if a child has mixed feelings, a child would be able to say, Mommy, I'm really frustrated with you, but I don't want to hurt you because I love you. Or, Mommy, I'm really, really scared about the school play, but I'm really excited too. Or, I've got some hits in me from my sister, but I really love her. Anything in which there is dissonance where you can feel two things at the same time.
And so you're saying before that kicks in,
Before
that ability to be able to
before
think-
that kicks in, you see, when that kicks in, when a child has double feelings, a child can say, I'd really like to steal the cookie, but I'm going to get into trouble. Or I'm really frustrated at Mommy right now, but I love her, right? Before it kicks in, you're just one emotion at a time. That's all you are. And you're driven by that emotion. And so you can love Mommy. Mommy, you're the best, Mommy. I love you. I love you. I love you. And then Mommy says, no, you can't have that. I hate you, you poo-poo face. I want a new Mommy. And, it can just turn on a dime. Now, if you have a spouse that's still like that, there's a problem.
Yeah.
They haven't grown out of that. We're supposed to have our double feelings. But the prefrontal cortex kicks into action between 5 to 7 years of age if conditions are conducive. However, most of the adolescents I worked with and many adults that you see today that are on the news almost every day,
So people that are struggling with,
they don't have an operational prefrontal cortex.
you're going political here on me?
And our
Okay.
studies actually show that there is nothing happening in the prefrontal cortex and the corpus callosum. The corpus callosum is the bridge between the hemispheres because the way it's supposed to work is only one of your hemispheres comes to solve a problem. And as soon as it does, the bridge to the other one says, hey, I've got a different take on it, and comes in to solve a problems with both hemispheres. If a 4-year-old starts with the right brain, he's stuck with the right brain. If he starts with the left brain, he's stuck with the left brain. The corpus callosum doesn't work. It's based on an either-or system. And so emotions are based on an either-or system. It's not a this and. And so the whole issue of development is to be able to get to the this and. And all further development is based on this inherent conflict. And again, all you have to look around you is to say, oh my goodness, this is missing. Mixed feelings are the key. Is there any evidence of dissonance? Any evidence of dissonance whatsoever? And sadly, there's a lot of immaturity in our society.
Can you clarify for me, what do you mean by dissonance? Is there any dissonance? I just got a little lost in it.
Dissonance as inner conflict. Like when I say I'm really excited, but I'm kind of scared,
Okay.
there is inner conflict. The prefrontal cortex is a mixing bowl for feelings. So it takes one feeling at a time. When there's only one feeling at a time, there's no depth in emotions. There's no inner conflict. There's no dissonance and no emotional discord. For instance, when Piaget focused on cognition, he said there's no 4-year-old in the world who can say, part of me thinks this way and part of me thinks that way. I'm rather ambivalent today. I disagree with myself. Again, there's some adults who can't either. There's no 4-year-old in the world, but somewhere between 5 and 7 years of age, that is what is supposed to change. Now, you can't learn this. This is a developmental capacity. It has to be grown. You can't learn it. It is absolutely spontaneous, but it's creating those conditions that are conducive to that. So it happens first in play. So the more a child is engaged in play, why does play happen? Because the togetherness needs of the child are taken care of. And so that becomes a parent's primary responsibility. If I do my job of holding on to the child, a sense of connection, then they naturally engage in play. And in play, they begin to experiment with this and rather than either or.
And so, Gordon, this is how development in preschoolers unfolds. We need this capacity for dissonance in order to have a capacity for relationship.
Yes. So it's a beautiful kind of template, master blueprint, if you like, for development to unfold. And so it takes time. When a child is a teenager and all the emotions get big, they need a bigger prefrontal cortex, because you still have relatively small prefrontal cortex when you're 13 years of age and the emotions are too big. So they go into an either or state again. And if conditions are conducive, they pull out into a this and. If they don't, they become vulnerable to all kinds of problems in diagnoses at about 14 and 15 years of age. So this functional prefrontal cortex, mixed feelings, become key. But it's not a skill to be learned. It is a result of true maturation, true emotional development.
I heard you give an analogy comparing how sometimes as parents we think we can create a mold for our children to grow into and we can shape them. And you compared that with somebody thinking that they can create a mold for a carrot. You talked about how when you plant a carrot, it's going to grow into the mold itself. Mm. You just have to nurture the soil and water it. And I thought that was a fantastic analogy. Does that tie in with what you're saying here?
Yes, absolutely. The seed of the carrot looks nothing like the carrot.
No.
We're always trying to get the child to look like an adult, to become an adult. That's not what children need. They need to be children. But when you simply nurture them, and the nurture is the warmth, the invitation to exist in our presence, holding on to them when apart, providing for their attachment needs, their belonging needs, their love. That is the nurturance that a child needs. For us to be their answer, not have the answers, to be the answer to their need for togetherness, to feel cared for. When that is there, then they become all they were meant to be, developmentally, psychologically, emotionally. They become all that they were meant to be. They grow into their potential. Potential isn't something you practice. It's not something you can teach. You could have 3 PhDs, go to the best schools in the world, and be incredibly immature. Even the best preschool in the world cannot foster maturation. The best university in the world can't do it. This is home stuff. The true personality is homegrown, not school-grown. It is what happens at home. And it's only in home where these basic developmental needs can be met, these attachment needs. That is where a child is meant to feel taken care of. It's so many parents feel, well, if I could get my child to the best schools, all the way from Ivy League universities to the best preschool, and they think that then it's taken care of, their responsibilities are. It's what's happening on the home front that is always been the most important. This leads to the realization of human potential.
So, Gordon, as we wrap up this interview, if you were to leave parents with one crucial piece of information, and I know you have so many, but if you were to leave with one about how they can hold on to their children and have that important connection, what would that be?
Let's give it a try and see. I think the most important thing for a parent to realize is they're not alone. Nature has a tremendous desire for our child. And if we do our part, nature will do its part in the unfolding of human potential.
What's our part? What do we need to bring to that relationship?
Let's tie it together here in terms of the pyramid of potential. I had the opportunity to present that in Europe at the United Nations Year of the Family as, in a sense, the most important realization we could have is, I called it the irreducible needs of a child.
So the pyramid of potential is a representation of those needs.
Yes. And so a primary responsibility of the parent of a young child is to hold on to that child, to preserve the sense of connection, because that's where their vulnerabilities are. That is where the main threat is in facing separation. If they can find a way of preserving the sense of connection, even when things divide, like problem behavior, like being outside of the home, like daddy, mommy going to work, if they can find a way of preserving a sense of connection with that child so the child is secure in that sense of togetherness, they have met the very, very basic needs of that child. Mm-hmm. If that child feels cared for in this, then there is some luxury energy in that child.
Luxury energy, what do you mean by that?
Well, survival energy is all about belonging, about loyalty, about sameness. Who likes us, who doesn't like us. Facebook is based on all survival energy. All social media is based upon togetherness only. If you took togetherness out of it, there would be nothing there. It's a desperate attempt at being liked, at being loved, of having that status. We take that out of it and there's nothing left. It's not about becoming your own person. The luxury energy is about the unfolding of human potential, of becoming all that you were meant to be, of being able to have this integrative functioning, this consideration, being able to be patient when you're frustrated, being able to be courageous when you're alarmed. All of these things which require development. They can't really be taught. It's just like caring. You can teach somebody how to care, but you can't teach them to care. Caring must come spontaneously when the conditions are there. So the luxury in the system is about the realization of potential. And that's what it should all be about for the young child. If you think of a pyramid, our part really is to start with keeping that child in right relationship with us.
And that's the bottom layer of the pyramid of potential.
Yes, right relationships are key. They're us being the answer to their basic attachment needs, us holding on to them when apart. If they have right relationships, they are more likely to have soft hearts. And that is so important. When preschoolers can feel their tender emotions, they can feel the emotions that are in them. And that's the second part if you think of a pyramid of potential. So attachment needs first, and then now we know that emotions are the next issue. They're soft hearts. And if they're soft hearts, a child will be able to feel satiated, be able to be at rest. Rest is the key to all growth, absolutely essential to all health and well-being. And so it goes right relationships, soft hearts. Next one in the pyramid is rest, and then play is at the very top of the pyramid, bringing us into our potential. And so we could call that the pyramid of potential. What are the irreducible needs of a child? Right relationships, soft hearts, being able to experience rest, especially rest in their drive for togetherness, and true play. And if that is there, nature will do the rest. We don't have to worry about it. Those are the most important things.
Dr. Neufeld, thank you so much for all your wisdom and insight, and I have so appreciated this interview.
Thank you.
Rachel, you and I have had a month to drink from the deep well of this interview.
Yeah, typically it takes us a few weeks to put an episode together, and this one had 2 parts. So we've been listening to Dr. Neufeld for many hours.
Yes, we have many hours.
Which we fully count as a privilege with all of our guests.
And we learn so much.
We do. And as we've mentioned before, certainly these 2 episodes bear repeated listenings because his language is so rich and so dense. And there's so much to take in.
There is. There's just layers and layers of
knowledge.
Meaning and knowledge and wisdom. And every time you listen to it, I feel like you and I
we
make
get a little
new
bit more
connections and we just understand something in a better way.
Mm-hmm.
One of the themes that struck us amidst all these repeated listenings of Dr. Neufeld was his call to discovering the needs of our children through our eyes and rather than through the influence of cultural norms and even our intuition.
Which is a profound concept with so much implication for how we care for our children and others and for ourselves, really.
It is profound. It actually reminds me of a famous poem by William Blake. And it's only 4 lines long, and it talks about how we distort our vision when we just look at things and not see through our eye. It says, "This life's dim windows of the soul distort the heavens from pole to pole and lead you to believe a lie when you see with, not through the eye."
And Dr. Neufeld has gifted us with an amazing perspective of seeing with insight beyond the behaviors of our children into, in his words, what's really going on.
Yeah. And what a worthy goal to help parents see their children in this light.
Thank you, Dr. Neufeld.
Thank you. Each Family 360 episode ends with music inspired by the words of our guest.
You heard bits and pieces of this music during this interview. Here's the song in its entirety.
And you can find it in our resource section for every episode or wherever you stream music.
I'm Rachel Cram.
I'm Roy Salmond, and thank you so much for listening to Family 360.